Now I created a mask for my water exactly the same way as I created the mask for the last one. The only difference is because this edge is so much different, like you can't possibly put it all on the sticky side of the Post-it note. I have added some Tombow Multi to the back and let it dry completely. Now Tombow Multi, when you're putting two pieces of paper together, it's a permanent glue, but if you put some onto a piece of paper and let it dry, it's like a Post-it note. So it works awesome for creating masks like this. So I'm going to position it how I want it, and same as before, I'm positioning it out a little bit. I want a little bit of that white. To me, that makes it look a little bit more like water. And then I'm also going to mask off the top because I don't want to get that sand in my sky. And then I'm going to ink it starting where the edge of my mask is, because same reason as last time, I want the darker part of the ink closer to the water, and I want it going a little bit lighter as we go out. So there we go. And again, I keep this mask with my stamp set, reuse over and over again. All right, let's put a pretty beachy sky on there. I always love doing sunsets with these, simply because what's prettier than a beach at sunset? You absolutely don't have to. You could just do a blue sky if you wanted. And then this particular one doesn't have, this set doesn't have any clouds with it. You could always use clouds from the other set if you wanted to add a cloudy sky to it or whatnot. But this set does have some fun additions to it. Like there's some surfers, parasail, like there's a bunch of different things that you could do. The one thing with the way we've done this card though, with the embossing powder, if you wanted to stamp on top of that embossing powder, you'd need to use a permanent ink. So I would use some StazOn ink to stamp on top of the embossing powder. And then if you do use permanent ink, you definitely need to use permanent ink cleaner, so a StazOn cleaner, to get that ink off of your stamp. You don't want to leave that permanent ink on your stamp, even though I did with that whale card. It's just a good habit to get into cleaning your stamps completely. And once again, my problem blue brush. And for this, I'm using, like, so it's called Saltwater Taffy, Shaded Lilac, and Broken China. You can use whatever colors you want to do your sunset sky. All right, there we go. And now let's add some fun bits to the background. So I'm going to add the surfer. I'm going to do the surfer standing on the sand so that I don't need to use some permanent ink with them. But like I said, you could put him over top, or some of the other ones over top of the, apologies, my camera stopped recording and I actually didn't notice. So I left off where I was stamping the surfer. I stamped it with some black soot, and what I was saying is I'm stamping it on, I stamped it on the sand. You could stamp it into the water a little bit more. You need to use some permanent ink though. And then same with the, I just turned this one into a birthday card, so it says birthday greetings. I used a darker colored tan than the sand because I wanted it to show up a little bit more. And then the birds, I used the same blue, it's Uncharted Mariner. That was the same as the embossing glaze, and I stamped it. So for my sample card, where did it go? I only stamped it once, but what you could do is you can ink your stamp and then stamp it a couple times and have a flock of birds if you wanted it to. And then I'm not sure if it cut that out, this part out, but there's all sorts of other little things in this stamp set that you could, like you could have a surfer in the water there. You could do a parasailer in the sky or whatever. So you can have some fun with this. And you could also embellish with die cuts if you wanted. Now the embossing part kind of warped my cardstock a little bit. So what you have to do if that happens, you're going to put glue onto your piece of paper, put like an acrylic block on it, and then put a weight on it and let it dry that way. And that will help flatten it out and it'll help it glue nice and flat. But once it's done, you've got a beautiful beachy scene birthday card. And then once again, I keep my masks and I put them right with my stamp sets, and that way I can reuse them over and over again until they stop sticking. But fun way to use color layer stamps.